Trigger warning. Ghosts, ghouls, and gruesome stuff ahead. It's weird. It's dark. It's your kind of vibe. Welcome to Haunted and Homicidal, the podcast where true crime meets the paranormal. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Courtney. Every week we uncover the terrifying, the twisted, and the totally unexplainable. Lock your doors and grab your sage.
Because things are about to get haunted and homicidal. Hey guys.
What's up?
I feel like I'm sick again. So you guys get to hear that. Today has been a rough day.
Daylight savings.
It's daylight savings time, and it has fucked everybody that I know up, at least. Yeah. Like, my alarm didn't go off this morning, and I don't remember turning it off, but I may have, but I don't remember.
You might have in your sleep.
I don't know. Oh.
Did you set it for PM?
No, I have it set for weekdays only, because, like,
yeah.
Yeah,
that would change
but
it.
like, I'm normally up at like 7 o'clock anyway. Like, between 5:30 and 7, I'm usually awake.
Apparently your body was like, nah, we sleeping in today.
Yeah, I have been under so much stress, and I do feel like I'm getting sick, and my body was hurting so bad the last couple of days. My legs feel better today, but that's ridiculous that it took 3 days for my legs to be like, okay,
it was too much workout for them.
We're not gonna fall off today. So it was Thursday, and I was like on the floor for 3 hours cleaning the dragon tanks, both of them, and then my couches, wet dry vacuuming those, and I was like hunched over doing that, and because I did like the whole thing, not just like the cushions, I did like the back part, the sides, the front. It was spring cleaning, apparently. Apparently. I didn't realize that's what it was until someone was like, what are y'all going to be doing for spring cleaning? I was like, apparently losing my fucking mind. But also, I'm stressed about work and just life in general. And when I get really, really stressed and I've had caffeine,
you have a 7 problem.
It is not a problem for me. It's yum. I made my own flavor.
Oh, you did?
I did. Yeah. Well, I like altered a flavor. I got the Georgia peach, which is peach and strawberry, and then I added vanilla and cream to it. So it was like a creamsicle.
You sent me the picture.
The first one, yeah, it was like a creamsicle with strawberry. Yesterday I did just the peach, vanilla, and cream. I did like it better. It's good. I wish they had like a green apple.
Oh yeah.
Because I would do like green apple with caramel drizzle. And that would be so fucking good. Oh no.
Again, you have a 7 problem.
It's not a problem for me. And I have a shirt now because I got it for free for yesterday when I got a large drink. I didn't go today though. But if I'd been up at like 5:30, I probably would have. But I didn't because I didn't get up until almost 11 o'clock with the daylight saving times bullshit. Very stressful because that throws my entire day off. My entire fucking day. Today is just going to be a wash. It's a waste. Yeah. It's over. I can't do it.
It's a lazy day.
Yeah. We almost didn't record today. Okay. Because I was almost like, you know what? Fuck this shit. But I'm like, no, you're not here next weekend. I only have enough to cover us through this coming week. Yeah. I can't, I won't be able to do it because we've already missed like a week of recording when everybody was like really, really sick. So yeah. I didn't want to do it again. But with that said,
a word from our sponsor.
Yes, a word from our sponsor. Hey guys.
What's up?
We are going to talk to you about something called Haunt Fest. Super excited. We are partnering with them for all of their little events. So Haunt Fest is crawling back from the darkness, bringing more mayhem, monsters, and madness each year.
Step through the gates and into a fully immersive world of horror art, live music, spooky vendors, themed entertainment, and eerie activities lurking around every corner. Depending on the event, you may find axe throwing, trivia, animal encounters, rage rooms.
Ooh.
I need to do a rage room. Photo ops, food and drink, ghost stories, freak shows, hay rides, haunted attractions, and more. Some locations even feature camping, after-hour parties, and other exclusive surprises.
Our characters, awesome name, by the way. That is so cute.
I know, right?
Roam the grounds hunting for fresh screams. If you're easily spooked, grab a Ghoul Gone Glow bracelet at the gate to help keep the beasts at bay. Which is cute. You know, people have like autism and stuff, and their kids are scared. I love that they do stuff like that.
My old roommate wanted one for when we went to Terror on the Coast.
Nice. So yeah, Haunt Fest, they're taking everybody into consideration. Pre-sale tickets start at a killer price. For the full nightmare experience, upgrade to the RIP Pass for exclusive perks. Season passes are now also available, granting access to any Haunt Fest event throughout the whole entire year.
Whether you're a thrill seeker, a horror fanatic, an Addams Family, or simply dead inside,
that's me,
like Lauren, Haunt Fest is where Halloween never dies.
This is my jam.
Slip on your monster skins and join us for a weekend of scares, screams, and unforgettable memories.
Join Haunt Fest at the 2026 premiere of Death March at Trim Tab Brewing Company in Birmingham, Alabama. The thrills begin at 2 p.m. on March 7th and 8th, with the event ending at midnight on Saturday and 8 p.m. on Sunday.
And then Haunt Fest is back for its 4th annual Athens, Georgia event, April Ghouls, at Terrapin Beer Company on April 11th and 12th, 2026 at 2 p.m. Throw on a costume and boogie at our new at our new Dead Man's Party from 10 p.m. to midnight on Saturday.
I'm loving all these names.
I know, right?
Haunt Fest returns to historic Hopkins Farm in Simpsonville, South Carolina for a September to Dismember on September 25th and 26th from 5 p.m. to midnight on Friday and 2 p.m. to midnight on Saturday. Hopkins Haunted Attraction will feature a sneak peek walkthrough haunt for the event, which will open at 7:30 p.m. each night and is included in your festival entry ticket. A September to Dismember will be a full-fledged weekend festival with vendors, live music, themed entertainment, and much more. Prepare for a dead man's party.
This November, join us for some post-Halloween thrills at the premiere of Haunt Fest Harvest of Horrors at Bobby Brown Park in Elberton, Georgia. The magic begins at 5 p.m. on the 6th and 2 p.m. on the 7th, continuing until the clock strikes midnight. Camping, yurts, movie screenings, bouncy houses, and more are offered at this venue. If you're a raging psychopath,
I am.
Sign up to sleep in our night terrace camping area where our ghouls can creep around your tent after hours until 2 a.m. on Sunday morning.
That sounds so fun, guys.
To take a first look at the venue, come to our free On the Water Sink or Swim horror movie promo event on July 25th. For more information, to get involved, or to buy tickets, visit hauntfest.net.
Guys, do it. Okay, love you. Bye.
Do it.
Go do it.
Please go do it and send
just do it.
pictures.
Yeah,
we
send
want
us
to see
pictures.
pictures.
We're trying. Like, maybe next year when things are not as crazy.
Chaotic, yeah.
And I say that with a very light heart because I know how my life normally goes, and it's probably going to be at least as chaotic next year.
Probably.
But we will know about it.
Yeah.
And so we can plan around and for it.
Yes.
Hopefully this is like a lifelong partnership, as long as the pod's going, as long as Haunt Fest is doing their thing. You know, we shall see. So, we are going to talk about a very, very rough story today. Not as rough as my big story next week. I'm going to go ahead and warn you guys a week ahead of time, okay? Next week and the following week is my big story, so it's going to be just me. And it is one of the darkest, most gruesome stories I have ever heard of. I procrastinated and put it off.
She did.
For a whole week.
She did.
Because I knew what it was going to do to me. We'll discuss that further next week. But I'm preparing you guys ahead of time. It's going to be a rough one. So don't say I didn't warn you. Okay? Okay. But today is still rough, but it's not as bad. I'm going to talk about Elizabeth Short, or aka the Black Dahlia. A lot of people, most people, I think, like, know of her, but like don't know like the whole story. They just kind of know the name, really.
Ghost
like
Adventures did her.
Who?
Ghost Adventures.
Oh, did they? I may have listed that. I don't remember. I did this story like 3 weeks ago. So, Elizabeth Short was born July 29th of 1924. So, she would be 102 right now, almost.
Good God.
Yeah.
That's a long time
That's
ago.
a long time ago. She was born in the Hyde Park neighborhood of Boston, Massachusetts, Boston. A little away from where I was born. I was born in Greenfield, like 61 years later, but close enough. And her parents were Cleo Alvin Short Jr. and Phoebe May Sawyer.
Who gonna name their son Cleo?
I don't know. His parents, apparently.
That poor man.
She was the third of 5 daughters, so they had a pretty decent sized family. All girls, okay? All girls.
Poor Cleo.
I feel bad for those parents in general because I have 2 boys and 1 girl, and my girl is way more difficult than my
she's
boys
just
combined.
like you.
She is, and that is a problem. So if they have 5 that are just like her, oh Lord, bless them. So her sisters were Virginia Mae West, Dorothea Schlosser, Elnora Chalmers, and Muriel Short. So the first 4 obviously had been married, and Muriel may have gotten married, and she just may have kept her last name. We don't know. It doesn't really get into it. Cleo, who is her father. Cleo was a U.S. Navy sailor from Gloucester Courthouse, Virginia, and her mother was a native of Millbridge, Maine. So neither of them were born in Massachusetts. They just got married and moved there. The Shorts were married in Portland, Maine in 1918. They briefly relocated to Portland in 1927 before settling in Medford, Massachusetts that same year. So earlier in the year, they lived in Portland and then they decided to move to Medford. Cleo built miniature golf courses until he lost most of his savings in the 1929 stock market crash. That had to have fucking sucked.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. In 1930, his car was found abandoned on the Charleston Bridge, and it was assumed that he had jumped into the Charles River to his death.
Well, shit.
Believing her husband was deceased, Phoebe began working as a bookkeeper to support the family. Troubled by bronchitis and severe asthma attacks, Elizabeth underwent lung surgery at the age of 15, after which doctors suggested that she periodically relocate to a milder climate to prevent further respiratory problems. So they're like, hey, y'all probably need to go on a vacation to a more humid climate.
Yeah.
That's not so dry. Every now and again, right? So they were like, okay. So her mom, Phoebe, sent her to spend winters with family friends in Miami for the next 3 years. So when it was really, really harsh in Massachusetts, snow, freezing temperatures, they're like, go to Miami. It's 70 degrees there.
Yeah.
So for the next 3 years until she was 18, that is where Elizabeth went. She eventually dropped out of school during her sophomore year. It doesn't really say if it was because of school problems or if it was just too much on her as far as her lungs and just having to travel like that. So we don't really know a whole lot about that other than just that she dropped out in her sophomore year of school. So in late 1942, Phoebe received a letter of apology from her presumed deceased husband.
This bitch.
Which revealed that he was in fact alive and had started a new life in California.
This mother, what the hell?
In December of that year, at age 18, Elizabeth relocated to Vallejo, California to live with her father, whom she had not seen since she was 6. So 12 years later, okay?
This mother, what the fuck?
At that time, her father was working at the nearby Mare Island Navy shipyard on San Francisco Bay. We talked about Mare Island a couple of stories back with the Denise Huskins and Vallejo, California kidnapping. Yeah. So, California, that's just, where shit's happening, apparently, forever. Apparently. So, we're just, focusing on California recently, I guess. So arguments between Elizabeth and her father led to her moving out shortly thereafter in January of 1943. So she moved there in December and she was like, fuck this shit, I'm out by January.
Fuck this shit, I'm out.
So, of course there were going to be arguments. They didn't know each other.
Yeah, the man abandoned them.
She was 6 and now she's 18. She got headstrong, got a mind of her own, was raised without him. Probably a lot of resentment there. So they just couldn't get along. And she was like, fuck this shit, I'm out. So She took a job at the Base Exchange at Camp Cook, which is now the Vandenberg Space Force Base.
Don't gag.
Space Force. Near Lompoc, California. During this time, she was briefly living with a U.S. Army Air Force sergeant who reportedly abused her. She left Lompoc in mid-1943 and moved to Santa Barbara, where she was arrested on September 23rd for drinking at a local bar while underage. Remember, she's 18.
Yeah.
Okay. Juvenile authorities sent her back to Massachusetts with her mom, but she returned instead to Florida with her family, the family that she was sent to live with, making occasional visits to her mom and sisters near Boston. So she was like, I don't want to live in Massachusetts. I'd rather live in Miami.
Yeah.
But she did frequently go visit her mom and her sisters, back in Massachusetts. So while in Florida, Elizabeth met Major Matthew Michael Gordon Jr., a decorated Army Air Force officer of the 2nd Air Commando Group, who was training for deployment to the Southeast Asian Theater of World War II. Elizabeth later told friends that Gordon had written to propose marriage while he was recovering from his injuries from a plane crash in India. She accepted his offer, but unfortunately, Gordon died in a second plane crash on August 10th of 1945.
Well, damn.
Right. Elizabeth's sister, Dorothea, also served in the war and was assigned to decode Japanese messages. Just a little piece of trivia advice. It doesn't really go anywhere in the story. It was just something that was mentioned.
Okay.
In July of 1946, Elizabeth relocated to Los Angeles to visit Army Air Force Lieutenant Joseph Gording Fickling, an acquaintance from Florida who was stationed at the Naval Reserve Air Force Base in Long Beach. Elizabeth spent the last 6 months of her life in Southern California, mostly in the Los Angeles area. Shortly before her death, she had been working as a waitress and rented a room behind the Florentine Gardens nightclub on Hollywood Boulevard. Elizabeth has been described and depicted as an aspiring or, quote, would-be actress. According to some sources, she did, in fact, have aspirations to be a film star, though she has no known acting roles or credits. So, normally when you're an aspiring actress, you take, small parts, whatever parts are given to you. You take those, build your portfolio, work your way up the ladder. She had nothing. Yeah. So they're like, she may have wanted to be, but, she didn't do anything towards it. It could have just been one of those, I would love to be an actress, and then, that's the end of it. You're not working towards it. So, on January 9th of 1947, Elizabeth returned to her home in Los Angeles after a brief trip to San Diego with Robert Red Manley, a 25-year-old married salesman whom she had been dating.
What the hell?
Manley stated that he dropped Elizabeth off at the Biltmore Hotel in downtown Los Angeles and that she was to meet one of her sisters there who was visiting from Boston later that afternoon. By some accounts, the staff of the Biltmore recalled having seen Elizabeth use a lobby telephone. So, literally, they saw her there. They could place her there. Shortly after, she was allegedly seen by patrons of the Crown Grill Cocktail Lounge at 754 Olive Street, approximately 3/8 of a mile away from the Biltmore, so right down the street pretty much. On the morning of January 15th, 1947, Elizabeth's naked body, severed into 2 pieces, was found in a vacant lot on the west side of South Norton Avenue, midway between Coliseum Street and West 39th Street, in the neighborhood of Lamert Park, which was largely undeveloped at that time. So it was just land. The body was found by Betty Bursinger, who initially thought it was a mannequin. The crime scene was heavily contaminated. Why did I say it like that? The crime scene was heavily contaminated by onlookers.
Of course it was.
Because it was an undeveloped area, they're like, oh shit, police presence. So everybody was there. Heavily contaminated. And back in the 1940s, there really wasn't huge protocol. Yeah. And we covered a story. I don't remember what story it was, but it was the same situation. Neighbors had come in and started cleaning up the house, and the pie was still on the windowsill and people were taking raisins off of it, and it was a tourist attraction. Yeah. So that happened. That was around the same,
when the
time
dude
area.
Murdered
his family.
His whole family with the one son.
Yeah, that one. And it's
and the son's was pissed off.
Yeah, because
his uncles made it a whole
tourist attraction. Exactly. And so that's kind of like the situation here. Like, they didn't really seem to have a good understanding of like how to tape off a crime scene yet, you know. And everything's like a work in progress. You learn as you go.
Yeah.
But because of this, like, there was like a lot of, they couldn't get a whole lot. So this is an unsolved murder still. Okay. So Elizabeth's severely mutilated body was completely severed at the waist and drained of blood, leaving her skin a pallid white. Medical examiners determined that she had been dead for around 10 hours prior to the discovery, leaving her time of death either sometime during the evening of January 14th or the early morning hours of January 15th. The body had apparently been washed by the killer with gasoline. Elizabeth's face had been slashed from the corners of her mouth to her ears, creating an effect known as the Glasgow smile. She had several cuts on her thigh and breast where entire portions of flesh had been, like, taken away, like, completely gone.
I just want to know what went through this dude's head.
We'll never know.
Like, what the
Like, we will literally never know.
Like, what the fuck?
The lower half of her body was positioned 1 foot away from the upper, and her intestines had been tucked neatly beneath her buttocks. The corpse had been posed with her hands over her head, her elbows bent at right angles, and her legs spread apart. Mind you, her top torso was here. The bottom torso was a foot away. They were not, like, aligned. Los Angeles Herald-Express reporter Aggie Underwood was among the first to arrive at the crime scene and took photos of Elizabeth's body and its surroundings. Near the body, detectives located a heel print on the ground amid the tire tracks. So there were tire tracks there that kind of indicated that her body had actually been dumped rather than her being killed there or dragged there.
Yeah.
And a cement sack containing bloody water was also found nearby. An autopsy of Elizabeth's body was performed on January 16th of 1947 by Frederick Newbar, the Los Angeles County coroner. Newbar's autopsy report stated that Elizabeth was 5'5", weighed 115 pounds, had light blue eyes, brown hair, and badly decaying teeth.
Ugh.
So she wasn't taking care of her teeth like prior to this, obviously.
That's probably why she getting actress roles.
Huh?
Probably why she getting acting roles.
If she even tried, but also in... I don't know where I'm going with that.
Lauren lost her train of thought.
I did. There were ligature marks on her ankles, wrists, and neck, so she'd been tied, and then also around her neck. And an irregular laceration with superficial tissue loss on her right breast. Newbar also noted superficial lacerations to the right forearm, left upper arm, and lower side of the chest. Elizabeth's body had been completely cut in half by a technique taught in the 1930s called a hemocorporectomy. The lower half of her body had been removed by transecting the lumbar spine between the second and third lumbar vertebrae, thus severing the intestines and the... Some people say it duodenum, some people say duodenum, whatever. Her intestines and the part of her stomach. Newbar's report noted, quote, very little ecchymosis, which is bruising, along the incision line, suggesting it had been performed at the time of death or shortly after death.
I mean, at least she wasn't pretty much alive when she was getting cut in half.
I mean, she may have been like right there in the final throes of death, but not like like torturing or suffering. It seems to be like. Another gaping laceration measuring 4.25 inches long, so pretty long, ran longitudinally from the umbilicus to the suprapubic region. So from her belly button to like the top of her pubic bone or pubic area. So like kind of like a C-section scar, but like not horizontal, like vertical.
Okay.
The lacerations on each side of the face, which extended from the corners of the lips, were measured at 3 inches on the right side of the face and 2.5 on the left. So if you're think about the Joker, Heath Ledger's Joker, where his mouth was cut into a smile, that's what happened here.
Okay.
And I think, and don't quote me, but I think they drew some inspiration from this story to create the Joker with his face like that. Yeah. The skull was not fractured, but there was bruising noted on the front and right side of her scalp with a small amount of bleeding in the subarachnoid space on the right side, consistent with blows to the head. but she wasn't hit hard enough for it to fracture her skull. So it may have just been a blow to the head to knock her out, knock her unconscious. Or she could have fallen. Quite possibly. The cause of death was determined to be hemorrhaging from the lacerations to her face and the shock from the blows to her head and her face. I don't know. Newbar noted that Elizabeth's anal canal was dilated 1.75 inches, suggesting that she may have been raped anally. Samples were taken from her body for testing for the presence of semen, but the results came back negative. So they either wore a condom, they didn't ejaculate, or they used an object.
Yeah.
If at all, because they can't determine if she was in fact raped. Elizabeth was identified after her fingerprints were sent to the FBI. Again, her fingerprints were on file from her 1943 arrest when she was underage drinking. Immediately following the identification, a team of reporters from William Randolph's Hart's Los Angeles Examiner contacted her mother in Boston over the phone. That sucks. Wayne Sutton spoke with Elizabeth's mother while city editor Jimmy Richardson and Jim Murray sat next to him. Now, remember, this is a magazine, a newspaper that contacted her. It wasn't the police. It wasn't the coroner. A magazine or newspaper,
that's fucked
etc. Got a hold of the information. Just wait.
That's fucked up.
Hold on.
Oh, God.
Hold on.
Oh, no.
They contacted her. Okay?
Okay.
So now we're going to find out what they actually told her. Sutton immediately deceived Phoebe and told her that her daughter had won a beauty contest.
Bruh, I hope you rot in hell.
It was only after prying as much personal information as they could from Phoebe that the reporters revealed that her daughter had actually been murdered.
What the fuck?
Jim Murray would recount this infamous phone call to journalist Larry Harnish. In an interview decades later, he said, Wayne called the mother and asked all these questions and took all these notes, Murray recalled. I sat there and listened to the poor dear mother telling him about her school day triumphs. I can still see him put his hand over the mouthpiece of the old-fashioned upright phone and say, now what do I tell her? Richardson screwed up his one good eye and said, now tell her the truth.
Yeah, like, what the fuck?
And so then he said, you son of a bitch. You know, like, fucking tell her the truth, you son of a bitch. Murray told Harnish in the same interview that he was, quote unquote, still appalled and that the, quote, incident was sharply etched in his memory. Well, I would fucking hope so. Like, I hope you never get any kind of sleep or rest about that.
You two are bitches.
Phoebe initially could not believe what the reporters had told her. She refused to believe that her daughter had been murdered until eventually she received confirmation from the Los Angeles police through her local police department. So they didn't reach out directly to her. They called her police department and was like, hey, can you like go to her house and tell her? The Examiner offered to pay Phoebe's airfare and accommodations if she would travel to Los Angeles to help with the police investigation. That was yet another ploy, since the newspaper kept her away from the police and other reporters in order to protect its scoop. So they flew her there.
I hope you guys lost your fucking business no longer.
They didn't, but you know.
Fucking assholes.
Mm-hmm. The Examiner and another Hearst newspaper, the Herald Express, later sensationalized the case with one Examiner article describing the black tailored suit Elizabeth was last seen wearing as, quote, a tight skirt and sheer blouse. That's not what she was wearing. The media nicknamed her, quote, the Black Dahlia, and described her as a, quote, adventuress who, quote, prowled Hollywood Boulevard. So they're lying. Yep. Additional newspaper reports, such as the one published in the Los Angeles Times on January 17th, deemed the murder as a, quote, sex fiend slaying. They had no information about this. They had no suspects. They just went on, I guess, maybe if they'd gotten a hold of the coroner report that her anal cavity was dilated, but there was no semen present, so like no actual evidence or proof of a rape. So on January 21st, a person claiming to be Elizabeth's killer placed a phone call to the office of James Richardson, the editor of the Examiner, congratulating Richardson on the newspaper's coverage of the case and stated he planned on eventually turning himself in, but not before allowing the police to pursue him further.
He said, we're going to play a game.
Yeah. Additionally, the caller told Richards to, quote, expect some souvenirs of Beth Short in the mail. 3 days later, a suspicious manila envelope was discovered, addressed to the Los Angeles Examiner and other Los Angeles papers, with individual words that had been cut and pasted from newspaper clippings. So, like, you know. Additionally, a large message on the face of the envelope read, "Here is Dahlia's belongings, letter to follow." The envelope contained Elizabeth's birth certificate, business cards, photographs, names written on pieces of paper, and an address book with the name Mark Henson embossed on the cover. So they actually had her shit. The packet had been carefully cleaned with gasoline, similarly to Elizabeth's body, which led police to suspect the packet had actually been sent directly by her killer.
So this man was supposed to be okay.
Yeah. Despite efforts to clean the packet, several partial fingerprints were lifted from the envelope and sent to the FBI for testing. However, the prints were compromised in transit and thus could not be properly analyzed.
Y'all bitches.
They dropped the ball so many fucking times here.
Y'all bitches.
The same day the packet was received by the Examiner, a handbag and a black suede shoe were reported to have been set atop a garbage can in the alley a short distance from Norton Avenue, which is 2 miles from where they found her body. The items were recovered by police but had also been wiped clean with gasoline, destroying any fingerprints. On March 14th, an apparent suicide note scrawled in pencil on a bit of paper was found tucked inside a shoe and a pile of men's clothing by the ocean's edge at the foot of Breeze Avenue in Venice. The note read, quote, "To whom it may concern, I have waited for the police to capture me for the Black Dahlia killing, but have not. I am too much of a coward to turn myself in, so this is the best way out for me. I couldn't help myself for that or this. Sorry, Mary." The piles of clothing was first seen by a beach caretaker who reported the discovery to lifeguard Captain John Dillon. Dillon immediately notified Captain L.E. Christensen of the West Los Angeles Police Station. Clothes included a coat and trousers of blue herringbone tweed, a brown and white t-shirt, white jockey shorts, tan socks, and a size 8 tan moccasin leisure shoe.
So pretty much all his whole outfit.
He took everything off. The clothes gave no clue to the identity of their owner. The police quickly deemed Mark Hansen, the owner of the address book found in the packet, a suspect. Hansen was a wealthy local nightclub and theater owner and an acquaintance at whose home Elizabeth stayed with friends. So, like, she knew him, but they were not, like, really, really friendly.
Yeah.
According to some sources, Hansen had also confirmed that the purse and shoe discovered in the alley were, in fact, Elizabeth's. Ann Toth, Elizabeth's friend and roommate, told investigators that Elizabeth had recently rejected sexual advances from Hansen and suggested it as a potential motive for him to have killed her. However, Hansen was cleared of suspicion in the case. Damn. In addition to Hansen, the Los Angeles Police Department interviewed over 150 men.
I'll get your booty in a second.
Nisha, you're interrupting. I'm trying to get through this. It's a long day.
She's like, but I want my butt scratched.
They interviewed over 150 men in the ensuing weeks who they believed to be potential suspects. Robert Manley, who had been one of the last people to see Elizabeth alive, was also investigated but was cleared of suspicion after passing numerous polygraph examinations. Police also interviewed several persons found listed in the Hansen address book, including Martin Lewis, who had been an acquaintance of Elizabeth's also. So, like, no real, like, tight connections, but just, like, people who saw her or talked to her, like, one time, right?
Yeah.
Lewis was able to provide an alibi for the day of Elizabeth's murder, as he was in Portland visiting his dying father-in-law. So, he was quickly checked off as, like, not a suspect. A total of 750 investigators from the LAPD and other departments worked on Elizabeth's case during its initial stages, including 400 sheriff's deputies and 250 California State Patrol officers.
Good golly.
So over 1,000 people were working on this case.
Mm-hmm.
Various locations were searched for potential evidence, including storm drains throughout Los Angeles, abandoned structures, and various sites along the Los Angeles River. but the search yielded no further evidence. So they were kind of thinking like maybe she was killed in like an abandoned building in a sewer drain, you know, trying to find any kind of evidence of like a whole body's worth of blood because it wasn't at the crime scene.
Yeah.
Los Angeles Councilman Lloyd G. Davis posted a $10,000, which is about $150,000 today, reward for information leading police to Elizabeth's killer. After the announcement of the reward, various persons came forward with confessions, most of which police dismissed as false.
Of course. They're like, ooh, money.
Several of the false confessors were charged with obstruction of justice.
Good.
On January 26th, another letter was received by the Examiner, this time handwritten, which read, quote, "Here it is, turning in Wednesday, January 29th, 10 a.m. Had my fun at police, Black Dahlia Avenger." The letter also named a location at which the supposed killer would turn himself in. Police waited at the location on the morning of January 29th, but the alleged killer did not appear.
He said, fuck y'all.
Instead, at 1 p.m., the Examiner offices received another cut and paste letter which read, quote, "Have changed my mind. You would not give me a square deal. Dahlia killing was justified." So he was like, I thought about it, and like, you're not going to treat me fairly. And she deserved to die. Deuces. The graphic nature of the murder and subsequent letters received by the Examiner had resulted in a media circus surrounding Elizabeth's murder. Both local and national publications heavily covered the story, many of which reprinted sensationalistic reports suggesting that Elizabeth had been tortured for hours prior to her death. That information, however, was false, was not true. Yet police allowed reports to circulate so as to conceal Elizabeth's true cause of death from the public, which again was hemorrhaging from having her mouth cut open. I don't know why they would want to keep that a secret, but that they wanted to.
Yeah.
Further reports about Elizabeth's personal life were publicized, including details about her alleged declining of Hanson's sexual advances. Additionally, a stripper who was an acquaintance of Elizabeth's told police that she, quote, liked to get the guys worked up over her, but then she'd leave them hanging dry.
That's probably what happened with this dude then.
We never know. This led some reporters, namely the Herald Express's Bevo Means, and detectives to look into the possibility that Elizabeth was a lesbian and began questioning employees and patrons of gay bars in Los Angeles. This claim, however, remains unsubstantiated even to this day. The Herald Express also received several letters from the purported killer, again made with the cut and paste clippings, one of which read, "I will give up on Dahlia killing if I get 10 years. Don't try to find me."
What?
I don't know. On February 1st, the Los Angeles Daily News reported that the case had, quote, "run into a stone wall with no new leads for investigators to pursue." So, you know, it was turning into a cold case pretty quickly. The Examiner continued to run stories on the murder and the investigation, which was front page news for 35 days following the discovery of the body. When interviewed, lead investigator Captain Jack Donahue told the press that he believed Elizabeth's murder had taken place in a remote building or shack on the outskirts of Los Angeles, and that her body was transported to the location where it was disposed of, which is why they were checking all of these abandoned buildings, storm drains, etc. Based on the precise cuts and dissection of Elizabeth's body, the LAPD looked into the possibility that the murderer could have been a surgeon, doctor, or someone with medical knowledge,
That's smart.
or butcher knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay. In mid-February of 1947, the LAPD served a warrant to the University of Southern California Medical School, which was located near the site where the body had been discovered, requesting a complete list of the program's students. The university agreed so long as the students' identities remained private. Background checks were conducted, but yielded no result, so it wasn't anybody in that program at the current time. By spring of 1947, Elizabeth's murder had become a cold case with few new leads. Sergeant Finis Brown, one of the lead detectives on the case, blamed the press for compromising the investigation through journalists' probing of details and unverified reporting.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. It
It
is.
fucked you up,
it
like
is-
100%.
Yes, it's their fucking fault. It's always their fucking fault. Because they can't keep their goddamn noses out of other people's fucking business.
And that's their job.
I get it.
But at least
still,
report correct information. Don't just, like, make up shit because you want to sell
and
something.
don't go lying to someone's fucking mother.
Right.
You assholes.
In September of 1949, a grand jury convened to discuss the inadequacies in the LAPD's homicide unit based on their failure to solve numerous murders, especially those of women and children, in the previous several years, Elizabeth's just being one of them. So, like, this was an ongoing issue. This wasn't like,
Yeah.
you know, but this kind of was like the cherry on top. They're like, this is so sensationalized and you guys are not fucking doing your job. In the aftermath of the grand jury, further investigation was done on Elizabeth's past, with detectives tracing her movements between Massachusetts, California, and Florida, and also interviewed people who knew Elizabeth in Texas and New Orleans. However, the interviews yielded no useful information in the murder. The notoriety of Elizabeth's murder had spurred a large number of confessions over the years, many of which have been deemed false. During the initial investigation, police received a total of 60 confessions, mostly made by men. Since that time, over 500 people have confessed to the crime, some of whom hadn't even been born at the time of her death.
What the?
They're like, I did it. Sir, you were born in 1967. Yeah, she was killed in 1945. Or 1947.
Yeah.
Like, you weren't even here, sir.
People are stupid. People are stupid.
Oh, God. Sergeant John P. St. John, what a name.
Don't be say John.
An LAPD detective who worked the case until his retirement stated, quote, "It is amazing how many people offer up a relative as the killer." So they're like, hey, it was my uncle. Like, go check him out, right?
They're like, I'm mad at you. I'm not.
Yeah. Like, you were always kind of creepy. Go check him out.
Yeah.
So in 2003, Ralph Asdell, one of the original detectives of the case, told the Times that he believed he had interviewed Elizabeth's killer, a man who had been seen with his sedan parked near the crime scene in the early morning hours of January 15th, 1947, which was the day she was murdered.
And they didn't look into that?
A neighbor driving by that day stopped to dispose of a bag of lawn clippings in the lot when he saw the parked sedan, allegedly with its right door open, and the driver of the sedan was just standing there. His arrival apparently startled the owner of the sedan, who approached his car and peered in the windows before returning to the sedan and driving away. The owner of the sedan was followed to a restaurant where he worked, but was ultimately cleared of suspicion. Suspects remaining under discussion by various authors and experts include a doctor named Walter Bailey, and this was proposed by the former Times copy editor Larry Harnish, who was like the one who was there from the beginning.
No.
The one who likes to lie.
No.
Leslie Dillon, who was a bellhop and mortuary assistant who wrote letters to the LAPD discussing the crime in detail, claimed a friend of his had committed the murder. He was arrested but released after the LAPD determined that he was in San Francisco at the time of the murder. We do talk about this a little bit later. And he did later sue the LAPD for wrongful arrest.
You can blame your friend for that.
Mark Hansen, George Hodel, Robert M. Manley, who was the guy with last seen with her, and Patrick S. O'Reilly, who was a married salesman, allegedly had a relationship with Elizabeth and did fail a lie detector test. Other theories were the Cleveland torso murderer. So, I mean, like, that checks. It was the same time, around the same time. And H.H. Holmes, even though he was executed in the 1800s. But, like, it was H.H. Holmes. Like, he's been dead for 50 years. Like, no. Although he was never formally charged in the crime, George Hodel came to wider attention after his death when he was accused by his own son, LAPD homicide detective Steve Hodel, of killing Elizabeth and committing several additional murders. Prior to the Dahlia case, George Hodel was suspected but not charged in the death of his own secretary, Ruth Spaulding, and was accused of raping his own daughter, Tamar, but acquitted. Hodel fled the country several times and lived in the Philippines between 1950 and 1990.
Why do you say it like that?
Okay, so there is this video on Facebook or TikTok or wherever, and it's this Asian guy teaching you how to say different words, okay?
Oh yeah, you told me.
Yeah,
Okay.
so when he gets to the Philippines, he's like, the Philippines, and so anytime I see it, that's how I'm going to say it. Sorry, not sorry.
Okay.
Additionally, Steve Hodel had cited his father's training as a surgeon as circumstantial evidence. So what kind of people were the police thinking did this crime.
Exactly.
Doctors. Okay. Keep that in mind. In my opinion, I think he's a good one. In 2003, it was revealed in notes from the 1949 grand jury report that investigators had wiretapped George Hodell's home and obtained a recorded conversation of him with an unidentified visitor saying, quote, "Supposing I did kill the Black Dahlia. They couldn't prove it now. They can't talk to my secretary because she's dead. They thought there was something fishy. Anyway, now they may have figured it out. Killed her. Maybe I did kill my secretary."
What the hell?
Like I said, I think he's a good suspect. He's dead though. In 1991, Janice Knowlton, who was aged 10 at the time of Elizabeth's murder, claimed that she had witnessed her father, George Knowlton, beat Elizabeth to death with a claw hammer in the detached garage of her family's home in Westminster. She published a book titled Daddy Was the Black Dahlia Killer in 1995, in which she made additional claims that her father had sexually abused her. The book was condemned as, quote, trash by Knowlton's stepsister, Jolene Emerson, who stated, quote, "She believed it, but it wasn't reality. I know because I lived with her father for 16 years. Additionally, St. John told the Times that Knowlton's claims were, quote, not consistent with the facts of the case. Correct. Because if she had been beaten to death with a claw hammer, there would have been a fractured skull. There would have been additional markings, and it wasn't the case factually. The 2017 book Black Dahlia, Red Rose by Pew Eatwell focuses on Leslie Dillon, who again was a bellhop and a former mortician's assistant, his associate Mark Hansen, and Jeff Connors. So Jeff Connors is a new name, but we know who Mark Hansen is, the nightclub owner who was trying to have sex with Elizabeth, and allegedly she was like, no thank you.
No thank you. Don't touchy.
And Sergeant Finis Brown, a lead detective who had links to Hansen and was allegedly corrupt. So, like, there's a lot of people on the force, so we really don't know if anything was, like, truly covered up. But Eatwell posits that Elizabeth was murdered because she knew too much about the men's involvement in a scheme for robbing hotels, which would be why Dillon was working for one.
Okay.
She further suggests that Elizabeth was killed at the Astor Motel in Los Angeles, where the owners reported finding one of their rooms, quote, covered in blood and fecal matter. On the morning Elizabeth's body was found, that would make sense. If they cut her in half at her stomach, all that's going to come out.
Yeah.
The Examiner stated in 1949 that LAPD Chief William A. Wharton denied that the Astor Motel had anything to do with this case, although its rival newspaper, the Los Angeles Herald, claimed that the murder took place there. So it's not saying whether or not this hotel actually made that report. What it's saying is that report has nothing to do with this case.
Yeah.
It just kind of seems a little
suspicious.
In 2000, Buzz Williams, a retired detective with the Long Beach Police Department, wrote an article for the LBPD News, The Rap Sheet, on Elizabeth's murder. His father, Richard F. Williams, was a member of the LAPD's gangster squad investigating the case.
The fact they have a gangster squad.
Williams's father reportedly believed that Dillon was the killer, and that when Dillon returned to his home state of Oklahoma, he was able to avoid extradition to California because his ex-wife, Georgia Stevenson, was second cousins with the Illinois governor, Adlai Stevenson II, who contacted the governor of Oklahoma on Dillon's behalf. Williams's article claimed that Dillon sued the LAPD for $3 million, but the suit was dropped. Harnish disputes this, stating that Dillon was cleared by police after an exhaustive investigation and that the district attorney's files positively placed him in San Francisco when Elizabeth was killed. Harnish claims that there was no LAPD cover-up and that Dillon did in fact receive a financial settlement from the city of Los Angeles, but has not been able to produce any evidence to prove his claims. So, he also kind of seems like a good...
Yeah.
That seems like a good theory. Several crime authors, as well as police detective Peter Marilow, y'all should remember Peter Marilow from the Cleveland Torso murders.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, Peter Marilow, have suspected a link between Elizabeth Short and the Cleveland Torso murders. As part of their investigation into other murders that took place before and after Elizabeth's murder, The original LAPD investigators studied the torso murders in 1947, but later discounted any connection between the two cases. So that's not, even though it's similar, I'm not linking that one there. In 1980, new evidence implicated a former torso murder suspect, Jack Anderson Wilson, and he was investigated by St. John in relation to Elizabeth's murder. He claimed he was close to arresting Wilson in Elizabeth's murder, but that Wilson died in a fire on February 4th of 1982.
Of course the man did.
40 years later. Almost 40 years later. The possible connection to the torso murders received renewed media attention when it was profiled on the NBC series Unsolved Mysteries in 1992, in which Elliot Ness's biographer Oscar Fraley suggested Ness knew the identity of the killer responsible for both cases. Ness knew who it was. He couldn't prove it, like we talked about in the torso murders. He knew who it was. He couldn't prove it, but he knew. So this, like, they're suggesting he knew who they both were, but it doesn't say if they were the same person or if he just kind of, had an inclination on both of them. So it was also possible that she was part of the lipstick murders.
The what?
The lipstick murders. So crime authors such as Steve Hodel and William Rasmussen have suggested a link between Elizabeth's murder and the 1946 murder and dismemberment of 6-year-old Suzanne Degnan in Chicago.
6-year-old?
She was 6.
Dismembered a 6?
This story is fucking horrible. We are going to cover it eventually, but it's horrible. Captain Donahoe of the LAPD publicly stated that he believed the Black Dahlia and the lipstick murders in Chicago were likely connected. Among the evidence cited is the fact that Elizabeth's body was found on Norton Avenue, only 3 blocks west of Degnan Boulevard. There were also striking similarities between the handwriting on the Degnan ransom note and the Black Dahlia Avenger. Both texts use a combination of capital and small letters. The Degnan note read in part, "Burn this for her safety," but like every third or fourth letter was capitalized, two back to back. So it was like capital B, lowercase u, capital R, N. And both notes contained similar misshapen letter P's and have one word that matches exactly. Convicted serial killer William Heron served life in prison for Degnan's murder. Initially arrested at the age of 17 for breaking into a residence close to that of Degnan, Hearns claimed he was tortured by police, forced to confess, and made a scapegoat for her murder. After being taken from the medical infirmary at the Dixon Correctional Center on February 26, 2012 for health problems, Heron died at the University of Illinois Medical Center on March 5th of 2021 at age 83, so they were never able to connect it. Whether or not they interviewed him or asked him about it, I never found out. Another possible theory is the lone woman murders. These were between 1943 and 1949, where over a dozen unsolved murders occurred in Los Angeles, which involved the sexual mutilation of young, attractive women. Again, that is what the grand jury met about. Why are all these murders happening and the LAPD cannot figure it the fuck out?
Yeah.
This was over a span of 6 years, and Elizabeth's murder was like right smack dab in the middle right there. Authorities suspected at the time they could have been the work of a single unidentified serial killer. In 1949, a Los Angeles County grand jury was tasked with investigating the failure on the part of law enforcement to solve the cases, which we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And talked about 2 seconds ago. As a result, further investigation was done on the homicides, although still 0 of them have been solved. 0.
I mean, if you have no evidence, nothing to it's kind of hard.
It's hard. It is hard, and I get that. But I think the fact of the matter is, they were not trying hard enough to get the evidence.
Yeah.
And so by the time that grand jury stepped in, what could they do?
Yeah.
What could they do?
Well, when you have the freaking news reporter like these bitches over here.
And so it also doesn't say they were reporting incorrect information on any of these murders. I mean, we're mainly just focusing on Black Dahlia. But that is right. That could be the case. Maybe the news reports were just fucking so salacious that information was not correct. And I don't know. But do you see the problem I have with detectives?
I just have a problem with everybody.
Okay. Okay. So, numerous details regarding Short's personal life and death have been points of public dispute. The eager involvement of both the public and press in solving her murder had been credited as factors that complicated the investigation significantly, resulting in a complex and sometimes inconsistent narrative of events. According to Anne-Marie DeStefano of the Portland Tribune, many, quote, unsubstantiated stories have circulated about Elizabeth over the years. Quote, she was a prostitute, she was frigid, she was pregnant, she was a lesbian. And somehow, instead of fading away over time, the legend of the Black Dahlia just kept getting more convoluted.
That's true.
Harnish has refuted several supposed rumors and popular conceptions about Elizabeth and also disputed the validity of Gilmore's book Severed, claiming the book is, quote, 25% mistakes and 50% fiction. Harnish had examined the district attorney's files. He claimed that Steve Hodel has examined some of them pertaining to his father, along with Times columnist Steve Lopez. And contrary to Eatwell's claims, who wrote the book, suggesting it was Dylan, the files showed that Dylan was thoroughly investigated and was determined to have been in San Francisco when Elizabeth was killed. I don't know how far San Francisco is from where she was killed, but like if it's like a 3-hour drive, that's still plausible, right?
Yeah.
A number of people, none of whom knew Elizabeth, contacted police and newspapers claiming to have seen her during her so-called, quote, missing week between her January 9th disappearance and the discovery of her body on the 15th. Police and district attorney investigators ruled out each alleged sighting. In some cases, those interviewed were identifying other women who had mistaken them for Elizabeth. Elizabeth's whereabouts in the days leading up to her murder and the discovery of her body are still unknown.
Yeah.
After the discovery of Elizabeth's body, numerous Los Angeles newspapers printed headlines claiming she had been tortured leading up to her death. Again, this was denied by law enforcement at the time, but they did allow the claims to continue to circulate.
Because they're like, we can say no, but then they're still going to run with it.
They're still going to report it. So, and we kind of see that today, like, in press conferences and stuff, like we will see police chiefs being like, that is not truthful information. Don't believe everything that you see or hear, unless it's coming directly from the police department, because, tabloids, newspapers, Facebook, social media, especially, they're going to put out incorrect information and people are just going to go with it because that's what they want to go with. Some sources, such as Oliver Syriax's Crime and Encyclopedia, 1993 version, state that Elizabeth's body was covered in cigarette burns inflicted on her while she was still alive, though there is no indication of this in her official autopsy report. It wasn't listed, likely not true.
Yeah.
Now, with that said, if this was a LAPD cover-up, if the coroner could have been involved.
Yeah.
And the coroner could have left out certain details. It's not out of the realm. It's not likely.
Yeah.
But it's not out of the realm of possibilities. So in Severed, which again is a book, Gilmore states that the coroner who performed Elizabeth's autopsy suggested in conversation that she had been forced to consume some feces based on his findings when examining the contents of her stomach. This has not ever been... Again, it's not in any of the reports. This has not ever been something that's been...
Because one, it's like, why the fuck would you...
Yeah. But this has never been, proven. There is no proof that the people who killed Elizabeth made her eat her own shit. There's just no proof of it. This claim has been denied by Harnish and is also not indicated in Elizabeth's official autopsy report, though it has been reprinted in several prints and online media. So this is just like, they're just running with it.
Yeah.
According to newspaper reports, shortly after the murder, Elizabeth received the name, quote, Black Dahlia from staff and patrons at a Long Beach drugstore in mid-1946 as wordplay on the film The Blue Dahlia and from 1946, same year. Other popularly circulated rumors claim that the media crafted the name because Elizabeth adorned her hair with dahlias. According to the FBI's official website, Elizabeth received the first part of the nickname from the press, quote, for her rumored penchant for black sheer clothing. So again, remember at the beginning, they said she was wearing this sheer outfit,
Yeah.
mini skirt. She wasn't. She was in a form-fitting black suit.
Yeah.
However, reports by district attorneys, investigators state that the nickname was invented by newspaper reporters covering her murder. Herald Express reporter Bevo Means, who interviewed Elizabeth's acquaintances at the drugstore, had been credited with first using the, quote, Black Dahlia name. The reporters Underwood and Jack Smith have alternately been named as its creators. While some sources claim that Elizabeth was referred to or went by the name during her life, others dispute this. So they're saying, like, she was always called that.
No.
And then they're kind of like, no, she wasn't. Both Gilmore and Harnish agreed that the name originated during Elizabeth's lifetime and was not a creating of the press. Harnish states that it was, in fact, a nickname she earned from the staff of the Long Beach drugstore she frequented. In Severed, Gilmore names in A.L. Landers as a proprietor of the drugstore, though he does not provide the store's actual name.
Okay.
Prior to the circulation of the Black Dahlia name, Elizabeth's killing had been dubbed the werewolf murder by the Herald Express because of the brutal nature of the crime. Many true crime books claim that Elizabeth lived in or visited Los Angeles at various times in the mid-1940s, including Gilmore's Severed, which claims she worked at a Hollywood canteen. This is disputed by Harnish, who states that Elizabeth did not, in fact, live in Los Angeles until after the canteen's closing in 1945. Although some of Elizabeth's acquaintances and several commentators described Elizabeth as a sex worker or call girl during her time in Los Angeles, according to Harnish, the contemporaneous grand jury proved that there was no existing evidence that she was ever a sex worker. Harnish claims that the rumor regarding Elizabeth's history as a sex worker originates from John Gregory Duane's 1977 novel True Confessions, which is based in part on the crime.
Okay.
Another widely circulated rumor, sometimes used to counter claims that Elizabeth was a sex worker, holds that Elizabeth was unable to have sexual intercourse because of a congenital defect that resulted in gonadal dysgenesis, also known as infantile genitalia. What does that mean? So, like, infantile genitalia would be like you're 30, but your genitalia is that of like a 2-year-old. It's like small and not usable, basically. Los Angeles County District Attorney's files state that investigators had questioned 3 men with whom Elizabeth had engaged in sex, including a Chicago police officer who was a suspect of the case. FBI files on the case also contain a statement from one of Elizabeth's alleged lovers. Elizabeth's autopsy itself, which was reported in full in Michael Newton's 2009 book, The Encyclopedia of Unsolved Crimes, notes that her uterus was small. However, no other information in the autopsy is provided that would suggest her reproductive organs were anything other than anatomically normal. The autopsy also states that Short was not and had never been pregnant, contrary to what had been claimed prior to and following her death. Another rumor that Elizabeth was a lesbian has often circulated. According to Gilmore, this rumor began after Means was told by a deputy coroner that Elizabeth, quote, wasn't having sex with men, owing to her allegedly, quote, small genitalia. Just because she wasn't having sex with men does not mean she's a lesbian. Maybe she just doesn't want the nasty motherfuckers who are trying to have sex with her in Los Angeles.
Exactly.
Yeah. Means took this to mean that Elizabeth had sex with women, and both he and the Herald Express reporter Sid Hughes began fruitlessly investigating gay bars in Los Angeles for further information. This is a fuck up all around.
Yes,
Start to finish, this was fucked. Elizabeth is interred at the Mountain View Cemetery in Oakland. After her younger sister, Elnora, had grown up and married, their mother, Phoebe, moved to Oakland to be near her daughter's grave. She finally returned to the East Coast in the 1970s, where she lived into her 90s and died in 1992. On February 2nd of 1947, just 2 weeks after Elizabeth's murder, Republican State Assemblyman C. Don Field was prompted by the case to introduce a bill calling for the formation of a sex offender registry. The state of California would become the first U.S. state to make the registration of sex offenders mandatory.
Good
so
job.
Something good did come from this.
Good job.
Elizabeth's murder has been described as one of the most brutal and culturally enduring crimes in U.S. history, and Time magazine listed it as one of the most infamous unsolved cases in the world. Elizabeth's life and death has been the basis of numerous books, television shows, and films, both fictionalized and nonfiction. Among the most famous fictional accounts of Elizabeth's death is James Ellroy's 1987 novel, The Black Dahlia, which, in addition to the murder, explored, quote, the larger fields of politics, crime, corruption, and paranoia in post-war Los Angeles, according to cultural critic David M. Fine. Ellroy's novel was adapted into a 2006 film of the same name by director Brian De Palma. Elizabeth was played by Mia Kirshner. Both Ellroy's novel and its film adaptations bear little relation to the facts of the case. Another book is Michael Connelly's 2024 novel, The Waiting, has a major subplot involving the Black Dahlia case. Elizabeth was also portrayed in heavily fictionalized accounts by Lucy Arnaz in the 1970 film Who is the Black Dahlia, by Jessica Nelson in season 4, episode 13 of Hunter, and by Mina Savari in the series American Horror Story in 2011, Murder House, and again in 2018 with Return to Murder House. So, yeah. This case is wild.
The fuck?
It is unsolved.
The fuck?
There is so much information that probably could have been,
Yeah.
but was corrupted or contaminated or destroyed.
It was fucked since day one.
Yeah. Like, from the very beginning, it was like a disaster.
So mine is not as long as Lauren's. Okay.
Thankfully.
So I have Arliss Perry, and her murder went unsolved for more than 40 years.
Oh, wow.
So she was born February 22nd, 1955. Arliss K. Dykema grew up in Bismarck, North Dakota, where she and Bruce D. Perry were high school sweethearts.
Aw.
He's so cute. In August 1974, 6 weeks before her death, Arliss moved to the Stanford University campus with her husband, who was a sophomore pre-med student. And at the time of her death, Arliss had been working as a receptionist at a local law firm.
Okay.
So around 11:30 p.m. the night of October 12th, 1974, the Perrys had an argument about their car's tire pressure.
What?
Yeah, they just had an argument about the car's tire pressure. They just had an argument. Yeah.
The tire pressure's too low. No, it's not.
Yeah. So Perry told her husband that she wanted to pray alone inside the Stanford Memorial Church, and they parted. Bruce became concerned when his wife had not returned home by 3 a.m. and called the Stanford police to report her missing. However, officers from the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office went to the church and reported all the outer doors were locked. Campus security guard Stephen Crawford, a former Stanford police officer, claimed to have found Perry's body around 5:45 a.m. October 13th in the church's east transept near the altar.
Oh, wow.
She was found face up with her hands folded across her chest. An ice pick was sticking out the back of her head, though the handle had broken off and was missing.
No.
There were also signs of strangulation. Police reported that Perry was naked from the waist down.
Oh.
A 3-foot long altar candle was inserted into her vagina.
No.
And another placed between her breasts.
Oh, my God. What the fuck?
Her jeans had been arranged across her legs in a diamond pattern. So, for the investigation, Crawford told police he had locked up the church a little after midnight after noticing no apparent activity inside. He also claimed, later found to be false, to have rechecked the doors around 2 a.m. and found they were still locked.
Okay.
When Crawford visited the church at 5:45 a.m. to open it for the day, he said he found the west side door open and that had been forced from the inside.
Wait, and he's a security guard, right? The church security. Oh, okay. I think I know this story.
Investigators found semen on a kneeling pillow near Perry's body. They also found a partial palm print on one of the candles. Neither the semen nor the print matched Bruce Perry or Crawford. The Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office also ruled out any links between the murder and 3 previous killings in the area dating back to February 1973, 2 of which were later attributed to John Gietro. Perry's husband was initial suspect, was eventually ruled out. At least 7 people were in the Stanford Memorial Church during the night of October 12th and the morning of October 13th. Among them were Perry and Crawford. 4 other people were identified, and a 7th was not. A passerby noted this young man was about to enter the church around midnight.
Okay.
He has sandy-colored hair and was not wearing a watch, was a medium build, and stood about 5'10". The case remained open and was routinely reviewed as a cold case by the cold case unit of the Santa Clara County District Attorney and Sheriff's Office. In 2018, however, Crawford was definitely linked to the murder following a more advanced DNA test.
Yeah.
On June 28th, as police arrived at Crawford's residence at Camden Avenue in San Jose, California, 20 miles from Stanford University, with a search warrant, Crawford committed suicide with a pistol before he could be arrested. Yeah, bitch.
Yeah, so that is guilt if I have ever seen guilt.
Serial killer David Berkowitz mentioned the Perry murder in a few letters, suggesting that he heard details of the crime from Manson II, the alleged culprit. In the San Jose Mercury News, Jesse Seffer noted that, quote, investigators interviewed Berkowitz in prison and now believed he has nothing of value to offer regarding the Perry case. However, investigative reporter Mari Terry noted that Berkowitz had volunteered information about the case without being prompted, writing in 1979, quote, Arliss Perry hunted, stalked, and slain, followed to California Stanford University. Terry interviewed Perry's friends in Bismarck, discovering that someone on the Stanford campus had taken a telephone listing under Bruce Perry's name. The resultant confusion when Perry's best friend and Bruce's mother attempted to reach the Perrys at the fraudulent phone number apparently led Perry to call the number himself and speak to someone in residence there.
What?
Apparently, someone got a telephone listing under her husband's name.
Mm-hmm.
So then when he found out, he decided to call that person.
Gotcha. Okay.
In a September 27th, 1974 letter to her friend, Perry wrote, quote, I had to laugh about your call to Bruce Perry. Miss Perry made the same mistake. She called them too. But the strange part of it is that his name is not only Bruce Perry, but it is Bruce D. Perry. And not only that, but it is Bruce Duncan Perry, and he attends Stanford University, and he just got married this summer. One thing, his wife's name is not Arliss. Anyway, next time you get the urge to call, the number is... This time, I guarantee you'll get the right Bruce Perry.
Wait, is what?
Because they just have the lines.
Oh, is something.
Yeah. The case was covered in detail along with the John Getro murders in a February 2020 episode of Case File True Crime Podcast. The supposed links between David Berkowitz and the Perry murder were outlined in the Netflix documentary The Sons of Sam: A Descent into Darkness.
I did see that. And
yeah, I don't get the whole telephone part, like why they included that part.
Like, why? Yeah, why is that even in there?
Yeah, I don't know.
So, like, are they saying that she called that fake number too, and like they told her to meet them at the church, or like what?
I don't know why they included it. Because I think they were thinking that maybe that's what happened. Like,
yeah,
but I don't know.
It just sounds to me like because he was a security guard and she was there praying, and she may have been attractive, or he was just horny that night or whatever. Like, he probably attacked her and then raped her and like killed her.
Exactly.
That's exactly what it sounds like to me. And obviously he's guilty because he killed himself. You don't kill yourself if you're innocent.
Oh, he was very guilty because they were able to get prints when they had better DNA shit.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, like, obviously he was guilty. Like, because if he is a security guard, it could stand to reason that his fingerprints are going to be all over that church. Mm-hmm. And that is something that he could debate. Now, when that semen comes back as him, he's not going to be like, I just nutted on a pillow. Like, no, come on. Yeah. But the handprints, yeah, like on the candle or the pews or whatever, if he is a security guard and he is the one that opens up the church in the morning, it stands to reason that his fingerprints are going to be everywhere.
They shouldn't really be on everything, though.
Yeah, it would be. Because if he's like picking up things off the pew, or if he's arranging the candles and making sure, if his job...
He doesn't touch the altar candle. He's not supposed to touch the altar candles. That's not his job.
But do we know that for fact?
He's a security guard. They don't touch the fucking candles.
But then why is a security guard the one opening up the church in the morning? Why is that his responsibility?
He's campus. He does the
But
campus.
why is that his responsibility and not someone who works at the church?
I don't fucking know.
So I'm saying, like, if he's just part of the congregation, he's like, I can open the church, I can get the altar ready. No. His fingerprints might be everywhere. That is something that they could probably argue.
Nah.
But you kill yourself. That's guilt. That's guilt.
Little fucking bitch ass.
That is guilt. Anyway, those are our stories. Sorry mine was so long. This next one won't be Thursday's episode, but next Monday is going to be real long, and I'm gonna apologize for it up front because it's rough. So thank you guys again for your continued support and for listening. Subscribe to us on Patreon. We do have a free tier, and it's just basically gonna let you know like when our pods come out. Like if you missed it or whatever, it's gonna let you know, hey, it's released, you can go listen to it.
Yes.
Do that. Or you can do a paid one too. It's okay. We won't complain.
We appreciate it.
Yes. And visit us on Facebook. That's where you're going to see like all the pictures of the stuff we're talking about or any links that we decide to post in there. That's where you'll see everything. Facebook.com/haunted and homicidal. Patreon.com/haunted and homicidal, because I seem to always forget to announce that one. And then if you have any sponsorship brand deals that you want to give to us, because we will do them. Any of your own stories or experiences or something that like you know about that kind of doesn't seem like a lot of people know about that you can kind of push us onto so we can research it. It's going to be hauntedandhomicidal@gmail.com. Again, of course, as always, thank you guys for your support.
Okay. Make sure to check out HauntFest.
Yes, and check out HauntFest, please. And tell them Lauren and Courtney sent you.
Yes.
Okay, love you. Bye.
Bye.